What's happening, internet? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Adrian, aka Foamm Cosplay. If you're new to my channel, I make a lot of cosplay tutorials, fan films, movie and TV reviews, fitness and fandom, and everything else in between. So if you like my content, please make sure to leave a like, comment, definitely subscribe to my channel. Today, we're going to go over my review of the Book of Boba Fett. So without further ado, let's do it. I'm going to go through each episode. I'm gonna give some highlights, things I like, things I didn't like, what I feel could have been done better, what I feel happened behind the scenes that may have influenced certain things that appeared on screen. Episode 1, of course, the pilot episode, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. And I'm going to say right away, the crux of this review is that me and Lucasfilm disagree kind of heavily on the characterization of Boba Fett, i.e. the fundamentals of what I think should be included in any depiction of Boba Fett. The base of the character should be a certain way, and it's different between what I think as a fan of Boba Fett versus what Lucasfilm thinks as the people who have control of the IP. The main point of this episode in particular was saying things would go a lot smoother if you accepted their ways. Everyone underestimates Boba Fett because he is not a conventional crime boss, but he is a much different Boba Fett from that which we know. Seen him fight against the Night Wind in this episode, and it shows him as someone who's incompetent. Why would you blast your hand missiles at point blank range knowing that the enemy is ray shielded? If you had whistling birds, you could have aimed above them or around them. He could have just shot them in their shins. Then they would have fallen, breaking the shield barrier. What he did was he fought them at the same level, and then he got his butt handed to him. Makes it even worse is the Nightwind assassin plan, their entire strategy was flawed. To surround him, knowing that he may or may not be a skilled fighter, and then to try to just prod him with the electronic axe type weapons, that was very flawed as a plan. I don't see that as good writing. So that's where the episode suffers. Having your assassins act like riot police, having your crime lord act like a common bounty hunter, having him do the talking for himself. It should also have been Fennec's job to be his hype man. Because if you keep making him say, I am Boba Fett, and then you don't show him as the Boba Fett everyone remembers, you're more telling, not showing, which is negative in a visual medium. Now, on to episode 2. My main critique of this episode and basically all of the first 4 episodes is that if you told the story in linear order, you would have seen a progression in Boba's change in mindset. And then you would connect the dots. Oh, so that's why he was this way when he appeared in The Mandalorian. Oh, that's why he wants to be Crime Lord of Tatooine of all places. As opposed to shoving him in the back to tank, delaying whatever action he has happening in the present day for us to go back to the past by like 4 or 5 years. It grinds the story to a halt, and then just when you're invested into what's happening to Gangster Fett, you have to go back to Tusken Fett. As much as I want to enjoy the show on the merits of it being a Star Wars property about one of the most beloved characters in Star Wars, I also have to recognize that there are certain things from a narrative and a storytelling perspective, as someone who's up to my eyeballs in this media, there are things that should have been done that the show wanted to subvert and did not do well. The Tusken scenes should have been at the start, first 4 episodes, just have all of the Tusken scenes, and then put all of the Gangster Fett scenes at the end, so everything makes narrative sense. It was kind of surprising that the Pike Syndicate of all of the criminals in Star Wars were chosen to be this big villain of the episodes. I mean, we had the Hutts. So it was kind of unexpected, bold choice to make them the main villains. The moment where Boba confronts the Pikes was a good leadership moment for him. So it's good to see that he still has that leadership potential in him, but now it's less. We're in this together so we can make money, and more of I am looking out for the community that's taking care of me. Now, moving on to episode 3, which was the weakest of the entire season. Right away, 4 out of 10, did not like it. Okay, what really grinded my gears about this episode was the Mud Gang, who were the weakest inclusion of the entire series. There were so many characters, there were so many legacy characters who appeared from Dave Filoni's corners of the Star Wars universe. But the Mud Gang did not belong here. They belong in the industrial centers of Star Wars. So that is Cantonica, Corellia, Coruscant. They belong in an industrial setting, not in the middle of desert Tatooine. They live on the streets, they hang out in front of fires that they lit themselves. They hang out in basically tattoo parlors where you can get your limbs replaced. Where do they get the money? On Tatooine, there is no work to be had. They can't even afford water, and then you expect them to pay for upgrades made of droid parts and have mopeds with custom paint jobs. The episode felt weak in terms of the writing. It felt weak in terms of the logic. It felt weak in terms of the aesthetic, in terms of how the characters that were introduced fit into the larger universe that they've already established. Chrysanthemum's assassination was dumb. Dumb. Next, episode 4. I will give it a 6.5 over 10 simply because I feel that Boba Fett is not projecting his strength as the Lord of Lords on Tatooine. He is not projecting his strength as a competent warrior. He felt weak. He needed Fennec to do everything for him. And that was another problem of this show. It feels like all of the side characters are built up at the expense of the guy who has his name on the title. When I say these things, I don't say this from a position of hate. I say this from a position of this show could have been much cooler than what we've gotten. Now, Ep 4 was an immediate prelude to Mandalorian Season 2. So we saw Boba and how he rescued Fennec, how he recovered the Slave One, basically setting up for his appearance in Chapter 14 of The Mandalorian. What I got from this episode of Boba Fett is that he's old, incompetent, and out of practice, which is a shameful way to depict the character. And that's not knocking any of the performances of the actors, but the characterization of Boba Fett is just, it's like they assassinated his character. And I don't say this to hate on Disney or to hate on Lucasfilm. I say this as someone who's loved Star Wars since I first saw Attack of the Clones in 2002. That was 20 years ago. I've been a Star Wars fan for 20 years. And it's painful for me to see the downfall of our heroes. It's like Disney does not know how to treat characters who age with respect. It has to put them down to elevate the newer characters. And this episode to me felt like they were really trying to make Boba Fett underpowered. I also think that they could have explained his rationale for deciding to form a crime family better, other than I'm tired of working for people who will get us killed. Because in that case, why not just stop bounty hunting? Why not go with the Mandalorians to liberate Mandalore? They're your people. Why not go find another Tusken tribe and unite them? Why Jabba the Hutt? Why not pick up the pieces of Crimson Dawn? Episode 5. Rating system on this ep is a bit complicated. In terms of being an episode of the Book of Boba Fett, it's a 0 out of 10. No appearance of Boba Fett whatsoever. Not even just one mention at the end of the episode. However, as an episode of The Mandalorian Season 2.5, I give it a solid 9 out of 10. Okay, let me put my problem with the pacing this way. You cut the amount of episodes by reintroducing a character who's already had 2 seasons worth of show. Like, I know he's going to appear, but it's like you had to give him 1.5 whole episodes just for his story in another person's show. Like, the entire first scene with the encounter with the dog-faced aliens, it felt more like something for old Boba than it did for Din Djarin, because we know Din Djarin, he's not such a bad guy, he's not such a ruthless killer. We know him to have a soft spot, he has a heart, and we know that Boba was not that kind of person based on his depiction. So this episode felt like, the opening at least, felt like it was better written for him. But since Boba is now this nicer, kinder person who's Tatooine based, we have to give it to the other Mandalorian bounty hunter. Overall, I believe that this series suffers a lot because of how much it takes away from Boba Fett rather than adds on to Boba Fett. And part of that is splitting the screen time and giving it to every other character except Boba. And then when he finally gets on screen, he's different, negatively different from the version that we're used to. That being said, seeing Din again was cool. Seeing him say, "I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold," was cool again. The fight scene was excellent. The use of the Darksaber was excellent. The amount of violence we see, that was cool. It was very gritty, contrasting with the past episodes, which have felt very PG in terms of violence. The Night of 1,000 Tears, that depiction was perfect. Bryce Dallas Howard perfectly captured the true military might of the Empire. showed the true devastating scale of what happens when the Empire marks your planet for destruction. I will say this, having The Mandalorian as a character and as a show has proven a better vehicle for world building in this post-Imperial New Republic period. There are multiple seasons of The Mandalorian. You can take whole episodes away from him, it won't take away from his story. Because he has so many episodes. To take away from Boba Fett, you took him away for 1.5 episodes. Just, he wasn't present whatsoever. It's just... And then you gave it to The Mandalorian, who already has his own series that's like 3 seasons long going to... That was time he could have spent consolidating his power or proving his badassery or convincing people that he is worthy of respect as their daimyo. But no, you gave it to world building. A lot of this episode was nostalgic member berries. You know, it was relying on you remember. I've been a Dave Filoni loyalist since 2008, since the Clone Wars first came out. I have to acknowledge and I have to call out that I feel like he's dependent and addicted to nostalgia, and sometimes it's used to cover up for plot that could have been much better written. Episode 6. I give it a 7.5 out of 10 because it was a good episode of the show. Whatever show that is, I don't know anymore. There wasn't enough Boba Fett in it to call it a Boba Fett episode. Oh, it's good to see Cobb Vanth and Mos Pelgo changing it to Freetown. It's kind of as cringe as changing the name of Slave 1 to the Fire Spray. It's like, why are you giving things generic names? It was good seeing R2-D2. We saw our boy. Our beautiful baby boy. Our beautiful green little baby boy, Grogu. And then we also saw Luke. And the deepfake technology is getting way better, but there's this one moment where the mouth was moving and the voice was off. Aside from that, perfect. Way better. The deepfake technology keeps getting better every year. And this is the first time since 2005 that we saw live-action clone troopers on screen, which was cool. I appreciated that moment. I really enjoyed it as much as it was painful again. The depiction of Luke was on point because it shows Luke after he had defeated the Empire. So it's a Luke that is wise and yet he's still playful because he's a young guy. He's in his early 20s at this point. Okay, now 28 minutes in, we're back to Boba Fett. Good to see Cad Bane. Haven't seen him in a long time. Haven't seen him since Bad Batch. I did not finish the Bad Batch. I don't know what happened to him there. Madame Garza, always good to see her. Unfortunately, this is the last time we see her because she goes boom in what is the only gangster thing anyone ever did in this entire show. We have finally reached the final episode. I give this episode an 8 out of 10, which is a very good rating so far. It feels like a finale. We saw Boba Fett in action. So we saw the Boba Fett that we saw in The Mandalorian, which was good. Kids, say no to spice. Unless you're in Dune. But if you're in Star Wars, say no to spice. That ruins lives. The spice trade ruins lives. Although we have not seen anyone use spice since Boba, and we haven't seen anyone run spice since episode 2. So I don't know what they're talking about spice destroying their neighborhoods because they didn't show it. They're trying so hard not to be narcos that they ignored everything that makes a crime drama a crime drama. There has to be illegal activities. That's why it's called a crime drama. Because there's crime. And Boba finally rides out in his jetpack, and it's the 2 versus all of them scene we see with Boba and Mando together. I was like, finally. Thank you. It only took 7 hours to see the Boba Fett we remember from Mando Chapter 14. So we have the people of Tatooine all together fighting what I can only describe as the Super Droidicas. Why we had to wait until the last episode of Book of Boba Fett to have good Boba Fett fight scenes starring Boba Fett is beyond me. Seeing Boba riding on the Rancor, which was cool. That's how you gain the respect of people. You don't need to ride on a litter. You don't need to be carried in a throne. You just have to ride an impressive Rancor. I like that Clone Wars reference to the lost footage where we see the duel, that fateful duel between Boba and Cad Bane for the first time, where Boba's like 14 years old. He died because he was alone in the end. And symbolically speaking, Boba Fett managed to beat him because he had family. You know, he wasn't alone. He was using his gaffy stick, which he got from his new family. I like the happy ending. I feel like that's when Boba should have finally taken his helmet off. That's when he finally should have accepted, okay, I am the protector of the people of Tatooine. And they do not need to see this helmet to fear and to respect me. They can see my face. And they know that the man underneath is there for them. That was my step-by-step review of the Book of Boba Fett. Overall, based on the ratings I gave each episode, my overall rating for it is at about 68.57%, which I will give it a grade of C, which is passing but barely. It's technically a D. Mostly it suffered through characterization and narrative issues. Because how can you have a show about the Book of Boba Fett and most of the chapters are about the Mandalorian Din Djarin? The whole point of this series was to say Boba Fett is more than just an armor, and he is now a man who has discovered family and has discovered community and has discovered this purpose of serving the collective. On its own, that's very noble. Okay, you're progressing a character who had zero character development for 30 plus years. But the execution was poor because you did not first recognize what made him so special in the first place. That was my review of the Book of Boba Fett. Please make sure to leave a like, comment, definitely subscribe to my channel. Until next time, props to you, and costumes too, and may the Force be with you. Peace.